This week on The Government and You. When I mentioned this topic, you laughed. So why did you laugh when you heard about the need for our lawmakers to start debating the increase and the minimum educational requirement for political office holders? This is The Government and You, and I am Itohan Olomo-Agbodo. I welcome you to this very special edition. We'll be talking about the educational requirements for political leaders. The legislatures are saying they're going to increase it, and let's find out what would happen if they increase it.
The channel that is all about you. Welcome to Love World XP, dedicated to bringing you the best Christian entertainment.
When you're struggling to keep your time correctly, go and examine it with the Holy Spirit.
Bring on the laughs as you enjoy comedy.
We are soldiers of the Lord.
New songs from the Love World singers that will keep you worshiping always.
Every day, my power was low.
New original drama series.
And even generally in life.
New talk shows and so much more to keep you in good company.
In such a way that it can be a solution to somebody's problem.
Plus, we added in some throwbacks because some shows are so nice you have to watch them twice.
The winner is
Love World XP, entertainment beyond borders.
Your voice indeed matters, and that is why we are telling you that you should keep speaking up. Now, recently we read about the legislators saying they want to increase the minimum educational requirements for the presidents, the federal lawmakers and state lawmakers, as well as state governors. How would that actually change things in Nigeria? Would that make governance better? Would that make us have better crop of leaders? Joining us at the studio today is Achike Chude, a very, very profound human rights activist and an advocate for good governance. And we are pleased to have you with us this week on the show.
It's always a pleasure, IT.
Yeah. When I mentioned this topic, you laughed. So why did you laugh when you heard about the need for our lawmakers to start debating the increase and the minimum educational requirement for political office holders?
Well, if you consider the war that has been fought against education in this country, if you consider the fact that a lot of our political elites prefer to send their children abroad for further education. And then the crisis in the education sector vis-a-vis the incessant strike that ASU has to unfortunately embark on in order to improve education in the country. You will realize that of course, it's a good thing, but you also question the political elites also who want to embark on that. Of course, it's a good thing, but how committed are they really to advancing the cause of education in the country? It is a good thing in the sense that leadership, of any kind, especially when you are now talking about advanced leadership, such as presiding over millions of people, determining the fate of the people, in the 21st century, with the rise in science and technology, with the complexities, of economies, where you have to talk about the micro and macroeconomic policies, and so many other things, the nuances of international relations. Also having to understand the relationship, that should exist between leadership and the people, and then the dynamics of international relations. It needs, a high level a reasonable degree of education for one to begin to have a proper appreciation of the dynamics of politics that involves the lives of millions of people, especially for a country like Nigeria.
Yes.
You know, so that is critical. We have seen some deficits when it comes to political leadership in this country in the past few decades, where even though we have very knowledgeable people, even though we have people who have done well educational in terms of, you know, positive educational pursuits, but we have also realized that as a result of so many other dynamics that happen within the system, it is not usually the best, you know, those who are very well educated that end up getting to power. Because political power dynamics in this country, getting to the very top, sometimes is not a reflection of your academic credentials, but a reflection of some other things that really have nothing to do with education. You need money, plenty of money. And some of these monies are stolen from the system by dubious and unscrupulous people. And these people now have enough, you know, money and enough influence, enough clout to actually determine those who would hold political offices. And so in that process, the best, you know, the most qualified are usually sometimes weeded out of the process, and they are not able to give their best to the people. But I agree that once you make it a law, once you make it mandatory, and then those people who will access political power at certain levels would also have to meet minimum educational requirements. You know, and that is a good thing. But also we have to realize that even in the country, even in spite of that, even when we did not have that, there were those who wanted to boost their image, who ended up in government and with forged certificates and papers.
Yes, yes.
You know,
I know I will get there, and we'll bring out that issue, because it was even at the federal level where we had that issue of certificate forgery and the Toronto and all that saga. But looking at this issue of increasing the educational requirements, you are one advocate for good governance. You join civil society organizations to campaign for good governance. How do you think this issue can help Nigeria achieve better governance in terms of policy and other welfare requirements of the citizens?
When people ask for the qualities of political leadership in this country or anywhere, you talk about it from two perspectives, I think. The intellectual basis, that is in terms of knowledge of the people who will be involved in the politics of the country, because that implies understanding of some sociological, political, economic factors like I have talked about.
Yes.
Then you also look at it from the moral perspective. It would appear that even the moral imperatives are even much more important nowadays, because you could have the best educated people running a government and they are morally bankrupt. So at such moments, their professional qualifications, their educational qualifications count for nothing, because they are undermined, all these achievements are undermined by their negative moral dispositions. You know, so you also need, you know, other ingredients. Yes, you need somebody with knowledge, especially in the 21st century. There's just so much that a person can do if he's severely limited educationally. Then you need somebody that is upstanding. You need somebody that has the right moral disposition. But beyond that, you also need a person with vision. You need commitment. So these are also, you know, virtues, you know, character traits of a person. You need a person with vision. You need a person that is committed. You need a patriot, you know, that has a national vision. Also, a patriot that also, you know, that is not encumbered by parochial, you know, sentiments. Yeah. That is not myopic. A person that does not look at things through the prism of, like you said, from an ethnic, perspective, from a geopolitical perspective, from a religious perspective. You are looking at a humanist, somebody, who has the right kind of, disposition to humanity first, and then who also believes that he has a role to play in making the lives of his people better. So you have a patriot, you have a nationalist, you have a person with vision, and then the knowledge comes in, and with the knowledge also comes the right moral imperatives. Then you're also talking about somebody that has courage and boldness, because for you to make changes, that for the good of the society, you will realize that you also have to upturn certain norms within the society that are already benefiting people within that particular circle. Those people are going to come after you. Those people will take you on, but you need to be also strategic, but you need the boldness to be able to confront them on behalf of the people for the common good, to deliver on the common good. So all of these ingredients are important. But then again, knowledge plays a key role.
Knowledge plays a key role. And when you listed these qualities and talked about the fact that they would come for you because some people are behind the scenes, drawing the strings of power and all that. But if this person has the right academic qualification coupled with the right moral background, the humanist outlook, the person will be able to fight issues like godfatherism. Because at the end of the day, the person behind the scene, those drawing the strings of power, they are the godfathers, they are the ones planting their people. So how do you marry that scenario with this development?
No, there are other qualities too that are needed. The person must be strategic. You must know, you must choose your battles, and you must know when to fight these battles. There's something we're told about, even from scriptures, about a man who wants to embark on a battle with, somebody from another land. He first of all has to, look at what he has at his disposition, how many troops he has,
yes,
the weapons of war that he's going to use, and all of that. What are the resources, how well he can sustain this campaign, maybe in the long term and all that. And so if he looks at this dispassionately and objectively, and he realizes that with what he has, he might not be able to overcome his enemy, then the best thing is to go to his enemy and sue for peace. You understand? And negotiate peace. Otherwise the outcome will be very fatal. So you need a man of strategy, a man that also understands when to fight and when to retreat, and when to dialogue
employ diplomacy
and all that. But again, a man that is a great mobilizer of the people, a man that can get the people on his side. Because you see, once you are, as a leader, you're able to get the vast majority of the people on your side, it becomes very difficult for your traducers to actually work against you and succeed, because they know that they are swimming against the tide. It is like, normal, now that coup has become a fashion in the West African sub-region. One of the things that coup plotters, and they will tell you that coup plotters look at the national barometer. They look at what is happening in society. They look at the reaction or the reactions of people, to the governance that is going on, and also consider the level of angst or anger or frustration by the people. When they realize that the people have had enough, that gives them the encouragement to actually try to unseat an unpopular government. So what that means is that once a government is very popular, once a government is doing well and is seen to be doing well by the people,
yes,
it becomes suicidal for any group of adventurers to want to take over the reign of government, because they are going to meet the resistance of the people. So a man who is willing to do the right thing, either as a governor or as a president, knows that there are fights he has to embark upon. Because what is happening in a country like Nigeria is organized chaos. There are people that have made up their mind to, work in ways that are not consistent with the welfare of the Nigerian state. And so they have made so much money from the system. They have manipulated the system. They have become powerful within the system. And so when a person comes in and wants to do the right thing, there is no way he's not going to rupture the existing situation that he finds on ground. There is no way that these people will be looking at him. They would fight him with whatever they have. So that's why I say he has to be strategic.
He has to be strategic. You know,
Yes.
you're talking about this issue of strategy and the godfatherism talk within Nigeria's polity. The need for strategy cannot be overemphasized, because we've seen a situation where some people got into power, got into positions based on the anointing of these so-called godfathers, and they tried to oust the godfather and say, I'm going to work for the people, I don't need you anymore, I don't need you controlling me and telling me what to do. But at the end of the day, like you talked about the result was fatal. Now let's look at this issue. The House of Reps saying we've passed this bill, as it has passed first reading, the increase in educational requirements of these people. And look at the people, the crop of people we have at the national legislature, for instance. People that we've been calling for constitutional amendments, we've been calling for different upgrade in our laws, in different policies. And some of these people, a lot of political pundits, a lot of people, advocates, they might say they don't understand the policy, not to talk about changing them or trying to amend them. Do you not feel that this task that they've taken upon themselves would help this situation? You know, we're all talking, we're trying to couch it in such a way that we don't ruffle any feathers. We're saying we have people in the National Assembly, for instance, that are not even lawyers. They don't have any business being at the National Assembly, for instance.
Not because they are not lawyers.
No, I'm not talking. I said
Okay.
they don't have any business.
Okay.
Now I had to couch down because I know.
Yeah.
Yes. So now that we have this requirement for an increase in minimum education, the requirement there, based on the Constitution's senior school leaving certificates, for someone that is going to amend a law like the 1999 Constitution, what do you see happening differently when this minimum requirement is passed?
Minimum requirement for any office, any political elected political office should be a degree. And that also goes down to even the local government, chairmanship.
Yes.
Perhaps for a councillor, maybe an OND, perhaps that should be the list, but again, the quality of even the degrees are also very important. Of course, you know that for quite some time, I think it was Okonjo-Iweala that made a statement that ruffled a lot of feathers at the time, that the average Nigerian graduate is not employable. Now, under normal circumstances, one should be angry with that, because the federal government runs most of the universities in this country.
Yes.
And so if under your watch as a government and the certificate that you are offering is not really something to write home about, then you get worried. And of course, when you look at today's graduates, a lot of them are quite abysmal, and you're wondering whether they actually, went to universities, for university and all that, your higher institution, other tertiary institutions. So I think it is a cause for worry. But I think the National Assembly has done well. If you look at some of the things that they have done in the past, some of the laws they have tried to come up with.
Yes.
Of course, what has helped them achieve some of this has been the vibrancy within the civil society environment. A lot of civil society organizations have become much more active, and have become activists in the way they have pursued matters that have to do with the National Assembly. And so you see, to a very large extent, the National Assembly bowing down, if I will use that expression, to the dictates of the civil society organizations. And the media has done a lot of work in that direction, just like this program that you are doing. So it also helps to put pressure on some of these people. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I think there are people at the National Assembly, no matter how much we vilify them, but there are a few people there, or maybe there are even more than a few, that want to do the right thing, that want to be seen to be doing
the right thing. That is very important indeed. We've been talking about the need for education, and the National Assembly taking that step to say they want to increase the minimum educational requirements for political office holders, especially those at the National Assembly, those at the state houses of assembly, and of course the presidents and state governors. That is a very good step, and we are saying kudos to the National Assembly. We'll go on a quick break and we'll be right back. You're welcome back if you just joined us. This is The Government and You, and we're talking about the minimum educational requirements qualification added by the National Assembly. It's a bill before the House of Representatives trying to increase that minimum requirements, and we're saying education is very important, education is power, and we still have social affairs analyst Achike Chude with us, and you were saying that this is a step in the right direction and this is what we want to see, and you also mentioned the fact that very soon some of those that are not qualified in terms of their educational background will be weeded out of the National Assembly. And at the beginning, you mentioned something quite interesting. You talked about the certificate forgery. Is that what we'll be seeing when we are going to make minimum educational requirements compulsory?
No, I think rather than forge their certificate, anybody will be foolish to forge this certificate. I think the best thing is for them, to be propelled to go to the university or to go to a higher institution to get these degrees.
Yes.
But my problem is that with what has been going on in the country, at the level of corruption, at the possibility of even perverting some of these the laws and the regulations of these educational institutions, just paying a lot of cash in order to be given this certificate is also something of concern, I think, to a lot of people. And so that is my take.
Mentioning this issue of academic qualification, you said that at the time where some people forged their certificates, there was no need because the Constitution didn't even have that requirement.
Yes.
And of course, we are just getting there. We're trying to start the process. So you didn't need to. So you had to do it integrity, the integrity of that person.
Yeah.
Then now, looking at this issue of age, now we've crossed the not too young to run phase where we now saw that the age requirement was dropped down a bit, and a lot of youths were able to come out, even though we still have very few people who are saying they don't have the backing. Marrying these two scenarios together, how do you think, I'm asking you about the youths now because we need them to come up. How do you think that the youth can get more active? Now we're saying we have a lot of graduates on the streets, we have a lot of them that study political science, a lot of them that have the political sagacity to even lead the nation, but they are not coming out. How can we make them even interested?
I think there's a lot of distortion in the system. The system has made it very difficult, if not impossible, for some of these youths to play a very critical role in the politics of the country. Obviously, they have to also, grow within the political system, within the political structures that they have. So they have to start by identifying with political parties, and then hoping to grow from there, at least on the basis of what they are able to achieve and the kind of recognition they find they have in those parties. So it's going to be a tall order. I think that what the young people need to do, and not just the young people, because it's not just about young people, they also have to team up with the older generation that are also committed because they have the experience. Some of them might have the money, maybe not like some of those who have stolen money from the system. They need to synergize with them. And then because you see, there's something the younger generation have that others do not have. They have the energy. They have a greater stake within the system. And then they have the numbers. And that is critical. And don't forget that ultimately at the end of the day, politics is a game of numbers. So they have what it actually takes to make the necessary change.
And talking about numbers, another class of people, women, because I'm advocating for more youth participation in politics, I'm also advocating for increasing women participation in politics. You talk about numbers. Statistically, it's shown that women have a higher number than the men. what can the women do differently to make them more visible come 2023, for instance? Or maybe 2023 is too soon. Generally,
No,
what
you know, again, we have, again, is the system. And that's why, Goodluck Jonathan came up with a kind of affirmative action that it was a policy guideline for his party that about, is it 30% of appointments or so should go to women.
Yes.
And he stuck scrupulously to that. I think that was also being overseen by his wife to make sure that the husband would live up to the promise that he had made. And so you had a lot more women participation in politics. The APC came in and they vitiated that. And so you have even less women competing in national elections, for instance, or local elections. You have less women being appointed into government. You know, the youths must fight for their voice to be heard. The women must fight for their voices also to be heard. And that is critical. Very power, critical. As they say, power is never given, power is taken. And so you cannot just sit somewhere and hoping that you're going to be seen. You have to make yourself visible so that you're seen.
Yes.
And so it is in the act of participating, of being active within the political process that people are going to
see you and get to know you.
And get to know you and know what you can put on the table. And I think that is what is expected.
Well, indeed, we need to sacrifice and make the necessary moves for us to get these positions that we are vying for. The youth and the women, we've talked about them specifically. You have to wake up. But this week we're talking about the increase or the upgrade in the minimum educational qualification that a political office holder should have. Well, Achike, it's been an interesting discussion with you. And but before we let you go, just one more word, your final thoughts on this issue of upgrade in the minimum educational requirements.
It's a good thing. It's a progressive move by the National Assembly. We are used to hitting them.
Yes.
When we feel that they are not moving in the right direction. But whenever we see things like this, we know that it is progressive. Yes. We know that it is for good, and we have to, commend them for that.
Yes, indeed. So indeed, we are commending those at the National Assembly at this time for saying you want to take the step in increasing the minimum educational requirements for the president, the state governors, members of the state houses of assembly, and of course, members of the National Assembly. That's the much we can take this week. I am Itohan Olomo Agbodo. God bless you.